He was the strongest man in the world, a man whose strength was unmatched and whose feats were legendary. Yet, his downfall began with a secret and a betrayal. From birth, Samson was set apart for a divine purpose. His parents, unable to conceive, were visited by an angel of the Lord who told them that their son would be a Nazirite, dedicated to God. This vow meant he would abstain from wine, avoid contact with the dead, and never cut his hair. In return, he would be blessed with extraordinary strength, a gift from God to deliver Israel from their oppressors, the Philistines. Samson's strength was both a blessing and a responsibility. He tore a lion apart with his bare hands, struck down 1,000 men with the jawbone of a donkey, and carried the gates of a city on his shoulders. Yet his strength often led him into trouble, fueled by his impulsive nature and desire for revenge. He used his power to confront the Philistines, but his actions often blurred the line between divine purpose and personal vendetta. One day, Samson met a woman named Delilah in the valley of Sorek. Her beauty captivated him and he fell deeply in love. But Delilah had her own motives. The Philistine leaders approached her with a tempting offer, 1,100 pieces of silver in exchange for discovering the secret of Samson's strength. Driven by greed, Delilah agreed. She began to coax Samson, asking him to reveal the source of his power. At first he toyed with her, giving false answers. He told her that binding him with 7 fresh bowstrings would weaken him, but when she tried it, he easily broke free. She pressed him again, and he claimed that tying him with new ropes would render him powerless, but this too failed. A third time, he lied, saying that weaving his hair into a loom would subdue him, yet he remained as strong as ever. Frustrated and desperate, Delilah accused Samson of not truly loving her, using emotional manipulation to wear him down. Day after day, she pleaded and pressed him until, weary of her persistence, he finally gave in. He revealed the truth. His strength was tied to his uncut hair, a symbol of his Nazirite vow to God. That night, as Samson slept, Delilah called a Philistine to shave his head. When he awoke, his strength was gone. The Philistines seized him, gouged out his eyes, and took him to Gaza, where they bound him with bronze shackles and forced him to grind grain in prison. The once mighty Samson, now blind and powerless, faced the consequences of his betrayal and recklessness. But Samson's story did not end in defeat. Over time, his hair began to grow back, and with it, a renewed sense of purpose. Brought to the Philistine temple during a celebration to mock him, Samson was placed between 2 pillars. In his final moments, he prayed to God, asking for strength one last time. God heard his plea. With a mighty effort, Samson pushed against the pillars, causing the temple to collapse, killing himself and thousands of Philistines. In his death, he achieved a greater victory than in his life. Samson's story is a testament to the dangers of giving in to temptation and the consequences of neglecting one's responsibilities. Yet, it is also a story of redemption. Despite his failures, God used Samson to fulfill his divine plan. His life serves as a reminder that even in our weakest moments, God's grace can work through us to accomplish his purposes. Samson's relationship with Delilah highlights a profound truth about trust and vulnerability. In revealing the secret of his strength, Samson placed his faith in someone who ultimately sought his destruction. This teaches us the importance of discernment in relationships. The people we allow into our inner circle can either build us up or lead us to ruin. Trust, while essential, must be rooted in wisdom and mutual respect. Beyond Delilah, Samson's actions reflect the human struggle between divine calling and personal desires. He was chosen by God for a sacred mission, yet he often acted impulsively, driven by anger and vengeance. This internal conflict resonates with many of us. How often do we pursue our own desires at the expense of the greater purpose God has for our lives? Samson's life challenges us to align our actions with our spiritual calling. The symbolism of Samson's hair cannot be overlooked. More than just the source of his strength, it represented his covenant with God. When Delilah cut his hair, it wasn't merely a physical act, it was a severing of his connection to God. However, the regrowth of his hair serves as a powerful metaphor for restoration. No matter how far we stray, God's grace allows us to renew our commitment and regain our strength in Him. Samson's final act of bringing down the temple is both tragic and triumphant. In his death, he fulfilled his divine purpose, delivering a crushing blow to the Philistines. Yet it also underscores the cost of disobedience. While God's plans will ultimately prevail, our choices shape the journey. Samson's story reminds us that our actions have consequences, but redemption is always within reach for those who turn back to God. Lastly, the story of Samson invites us to reflect on our own sources of strength. Is our confidence rooted in worldly achievements, or do we draw our strength from God? Samson's downfall came when he placed his trust in human relationships and his own abilities rather than in God. His redemption came when he acknowledged his dependence on God even in his weakest moment. This serves as a powerful reminder that true strength lies not in physical might or personal accomplishments, but in our relationship with the Creator.